Cockrell, and I started my career as a reporter, a news photographer, producer, and have moved, did that for about 10, 11 years, and then switched into, higher ed. So I want to talk about drones for storytelling. You guys will talk a little bit more about film and TV, and I'll focus a little bit more on what's going on in the world of journalism. So for me, professionally, I work for University of St. Augustine down in San Marcos, but I live here in Orange County. And I work with them on their online video content. I also do media relations for the university. But my undergraduate degrees are in journalism, and I'm currently working on my doctorate. So a lot of moving parts for my career. I've done a lot of freelance work, and some of my work has been on National Geographic shows and CBS Evening News. So I want to talk just a little bit about what's going on in TV, video, and film. Of course, drones were sort of a novelty at first, but now they're becoming a really serious component of the industry because drones can save so much money in filmmaking and television. And right now, what we're seeing is the studios and the unions, like the IGC right now is pushing Warner Brothers after heavy use of drones in producing Game of Thrones. They're pushing to get the drone operators as part of the union and as part of the collective bargaining agreement. So that's kind of an employment-related thing that's happening in the industry right now. Also, if you're a union television station, certainly all of the major networks are union. So the photogs who work for the networks are becoming Part 107 certified through their job, but also being supported through the unions, both local and national. And then I think you're going to talk about real estate, right? Real estate photography, but it's become drone and aerial footage has become sort of a mainstay of real estate profile, especially luxury, commercial, and I do a fair amount of that where I live in Laguna Beach until they banned drones from. So I wanted to use this this project that I worked on was one of the first commercial projects I worked on when I got my 107. So this Canadian clothing line was doing a launch and wanted a really spectacular location. This is a private ranch up in Santa Barbara County. Now here's the challenge. So there was a dirt road. It takes 45 minutes to get from the main building up to the coastal area of where this is. And you can see, maybe not, but there's a lighthouse, an old lighthouse on the tip of that. But so it's a beautiful, beautiful place. There's been movies filmed there. It's pretty well known by people who live there. But the challenge is getting all of the gear and equipment to film a shoot up there on this dirt path on four-wheelers. So the drone was a perfect solution for the challenges of just getting the equipment and the models and everything up to this area. So I think this was a series. There's the good drone shot. You see how the drone really provided shots that we wouldn't have been able to capture without a bunch of expensive equipment, booms and cranes and things, right? Okay, so on the journalism side, Pointer surveyed news directors, and Pointer has this drone forecast in news that they produce as well. About 90% of TV stations are utilizing drones for news coverage, especially in rural markets that don't have the money for a helicopter, right? So operating a helicopter is really expensive, and if you're in Tulsa or Davenport, Iowa, like where I'm from, having a helicopter is not financially, and you probably are aware of what's happening with the news industry. As audiences are spread out all over the internet and all over social media and apps, TV stations and newspapers have really struggled and are downsizing, and you have to do more. And a lot of these smaller stations are doing what we call one-man bands, where, and I teach at two universities as a contributing faculty member in the journalism program. The idea of a one-man band, so you've got to produce graduates that know how to shoot, edit, storytell, and do a good job with live coverage. Because the smaller TV stations are having, when I worked, you had a producer, a reporter, and sometimes a field segment producer. Not anymore. A lot of stations, even in LA, are doing the one-man band. So I would encourage you, if you're an educator in journalism, to ensure that your students are aware of Part 107, drones, and how to use drones for storytelling, because that's going to make them a lot more marketable as graduates once they enter the workforce. Some stations will buy drone footage from, I've sold to KTLA, a couple of, like a whale shot that I got. But in journalism, drones have proven especially useful for covering disasters like floods, the wildfire aftermath. Don't try to cover during a wildfire, tornado damage, etc. And some stations are even, novelty-wise, branding their drones. I've got a clip with a bunch of examples. You're going to see like Drone 4. King News up in Seattle has even called their drone Dexter the Drone. So it's kind of the thing that they're doing. But they're using him for beauty shots, which bump in and out of the morning news or evening news. There used to be a camera on the tower, right? The tower cam. Here's a live shot from our tower cam. They're using drones for that now. Newspapers are using them as well, and their photographers, like under Gannett, if you're going to be, you have to be 107, obviously. And what's new is that I've heard about a couple of stations, one in Phoenix, that are experimenting with tethered drones. Like there was a SWAT team standoff, and they have a drone that they tethered to their live truck, so that the drone could just, hover and wait for the action. So they're using tethered drones to the live truck. They're experimenting with that, and some have participated in Lance. I know a couple of TV stations down in San Diego did with the airspace is very complicated in San Diego, right? So that's in just talking with folks in the industry. I helped Meredith, which owns a bunch of TV stations, develop an education program for their photogs to get Part 107 certified. So I also have a media relations, a media monitoring software, and so what I did was I went back and these are some examples over the past week in national and local news of how they're using drones for news coverage. That's Sinclair. They have a lot of drone work, Sinclair network, that they're using. So basically, anyway, that gives you a sense of how they're using drones in local and national news coverage. And I will hand it off to.